Hello everyone, welcome to the Daily Dharma Gathering for Monday, November the 7th. My name is Janet and I will be your host for this session. Joining us is Venerable Thupten Chuni. Chuni has studied Buddhist meditation and philosophy with Venerable Thupten Chodron since 1996 and intensified her training by moving to Sravasti Abbey, an American Buddhist monastery in the Tibetan tradition, in 2007. She ordained as a novice nun the following year and received bhikshuni or full ordination in Taiwan in 2011. Venerable Chuni regularly shares the Dharma on behalf of the Abbey, both with local groups and occasionally abroad, and here on the Daily Dharma Gathering, and we're delighted when she does that. You can have a look at Chuni's bio, and there is a link there to Sravasti Abbey, so do check that out. And we will have time, as usual, for questions and comments at the end. So if you have any, just scroll down to the bottom of the page at any time, type them in, and I will pass those along. And Chuni will be teaching tonight on the times they are a-changing. And with that, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Janet. It's very lovely to be with you all. I must say that when I signed up for this date tonight, it never crossed my mind that it would be election eve. And of course, we can't predict what an election eve might be like. So, and I don't want to make the assumption that most of the people watching Daily Dharma Gathering might have a little anxiety rising, but we've seen a lot of it. And so I actually thought, okay, the times they are a-changing. I want to go to Nobel Prize winner Bob Dylan. Certainly people of a certain generation will probably be able to recite with me, "Come gather round people wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept it that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. And if your breath to you is worth saving, then you better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone, for the times they are a-changing." So, you know, I don't actually know what year that was, 68? Probably earlier, actually. But, you know, it was a time in the United States when we were, and maybe around the world, we were calling for revolution, a big time of change. And lately, if you've been following this American election cycle at all, and I know people around the world are, in part there's a feeling of calling for revolution again too. That's come up on both sides of the, I guess I could say two sides of the aisle in this conversation, this sense of time for change, time for revolution. And in some people's mind, one candidate for the United States presidency represents a really radical change, and another one candidate has been perceived and painted as more of the same. But if we look at it from a Buddhist perspective, one of the first things the Buddha talked to us about is to look at what is the nature of phenomena. Everything that comes together changes. It's not like things arise and they hang out for a long time, 4 years, 8 years, 12 years if we were like that person. It's not like that. What in fact is happening, in order for gross impermanence to be observable, in order for us to see that an administration changes, in order for us to see that a person dies, in order for us to see that a plate breaks, you know, we get that big change and we're shocked. But what the Buddha has told us is that at a much, much, much more subtle level, that if we look at it carefully, things are changing moment by moment, nanosecond by nanosecond. in fact, disintegrating even as they arise moment by moment by moment. And a continuity, of course, exists, and that's what's giving us the thread of things going on. But without this moment by moment by moment change, big changes can't take place. So that's what I wanted us to meditate on a little bit tonight, and I wanted to set that scene before we even do a centering meditation. So we'll do that for a few minutes and bring ourselves here. But I want you to have that in your mind as we do that. And then we'll come back to talking a little bit more about this nature of impermanence and how thinking about it can be actually a relief for our mind. Sometimes we talk about impermanence as being, and it does contribute to our suffering because we cling. But as we become more familiar with the reality, the truth of impermanence, and it helps us to cling less, which brings greater peace to our minds. So just start wherever you are, whatever situation you're sitting in your meditation posture, principally making sure your back is straight, your spine is straight, feet flat, or that you're settled firmly on your cushion, not tight, but firm. Shoulders leveled, hands in your lap or on your knees, however you do it in your tradition. Eyes lowered. So first, be aware of the sensations in your body, especially as you connect with the floor, the chair, the cushion. And then move your attention to your breathing. You can focus on your belly rising and falling with the breath, or at the very tip of the nostrils or upper lip where you can feel the breath moving, but pick one of those spots. And that's the focus of your attention. With this thought of impermanence in the back of your mind, be aware of the breath moving in the body, out the body. Be aware of the changes, subtle or gross, taking place with every instant of that inhale, every instance of that exhale. We'll spend just a few minutes mindfully breathing together. And then bring to mind, just for a moment, the image, or maybe you can call up the experience of what it was like, what your body was like when you were 6 years old. First grade. The urge to run to other memories might be there, but see if you can stay focused on just the sense of having that 6-year-old body. Then think about it at 12. Maybe you have a memory of looking down and seeing that 12-year-old body probably changing at that point. What about your experience or image of your body at 18? And if you're old enough, think of your body at 30. And think of your body today. And see if you can imagine your body at 92. And think, now how did this happen? It's not like I was 6 and then one day I was 12 and different. It's not like I was 12 and then one day I was 30 and different. Or that on each birthday, maybe some radical transformation happens and we all of a sudden age. No. Moment by moment, breath by breath, heartbeat by heartbeat, weather, the food we eat, the emotional experiences we have, accidents, outer forces, inner forces of stress or joy that we experience, all shape how this body changes moment by moment by moment. nothing can actually stop that progression of change. For any conditioned phenomena, meaning any phenomena that came together through causes, necessarily changes moment by moment by moment. Take another moment to let that thought sink in. Notice all the processes in your body this very moment of oxygenation, respiration, digestion, everything, all the systems of the body. So I think it's easy to see in that meditation on just how we ourselves have just our physical body, we're not even talking about our mind, how that changes over a period of time. And we're pretty trained, a lot of awareness of that. We may look in the mirror in the morning and go, oh my God, more wrinkles. But we don't really stop and think, well, or maybe we just put on cream and try to reverse the effect, actually. But really, it's happening moment by moment by moment. And that's true of every single phenomena around us. I personally find meditating on impermanence to be extremely helpful in my life. It is given as the major antidote to our attachment, to our clinging. Why would that work? Because as we recognize that we're hanging on to an idea, or we're hanging on to an outcome, like tomorrow's election, or we're hanging on to our youth, or we're hanging on to a person, or a career, or an identity, or even our favorite, the cup we inherited from our great-great-aunt. If we can keep our mind tuned to the constant changing nature of that phenomena, then when it changes more grossly, we're not shocked. We're not freaked out. We're not overwhelmed with grief. To the extent that we really accept and kind of embody this understanding of the real nature of phenomena as impermanence. There's a wonderful quote here from Geshe Dakpa Topgyal that I wanted to, let's see if I can make sure I find it. Since the very nature of phenomena is unpredictable, since things change at every instant moment, we always experience disappointment from the mismatch of how we expect these phenomena to be and how these phenomena really are. And does that register with you? We always experience disappointment from the mismatch of how we expect these phenomena to be and how they really are. Subject to change, that phrase, to change, I can accept that. But subject to change leaves room to believe that things will change sometime in the future. So that it's more precise to say that things are in a state of change, constantly shifting beyond our choice and beyond our control. That's the scary part, right? Things are constantly shifting and changing beyond our choice and beyond our control. And yet, when we really meditate on these things and learn and get comfortable with that, then we have tremendous freedom in our minds, because we're no longer clinging to the way things should be, how I hope they will turn out, my fear of what will happen if this happens, over which I have no control. One vote. One vote. It's not to say that we don't get engaged. It's not to say that we don't actively try to influence in a way that we can. And as practitioners, as meditators, as people who gather at the daily Dharma gathering, we're wanting to do that with a consciousness, a mindfulness, and awareness of wanting to be of benefit to others. And so, we have confidence that that is an influence. But when it comes down to absolute control, things change constantly, constantly. And so many causes and conditions come together to create any single moment, any single instant. So just to say a few more about this technically, the great master Asanga, centuries and centuries and centuries ago, laid out a series of meditations or reflections that we can do to help us just stay accustomed to this. And it's interesting, I love doing these meditations, but I find that as soon as I stop doing them regularly, then this freshness about impermanence is gone from my mind. Our habit of clinging to things as lasting a little bit is so deep. But he suggests that we do many different kinds of phenomena, just like the one we just did. That we look at our own bodies over a period of time. Really think and spend much more time than we did thinking about the change, the experience of life, and concluding each reflection with how marvelous is the phenomena of impermanence. How marvelous is the phenomena of impermanence. So we do that with internal objects. We do that with our thoughts. Just to take an entertaining and illuminating meditation to go from what was my mind at 6 years old? What was my mind at 12, at 18, at 24, at whatever? How interesting, how marvelous is the phenomena of change. Boy, personally, you get quite grateful for the aging process if you think about that one. So we do these inner things, the inner objects, and then we also look at the external objects. Think of your hometown, how it's changed over a period of time. Think of how natural environments, forests, or I was just in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina to think about how that changes over time. It's the kind of reflection that you can do almost anywhere, anytime. So just look, wow, how this has changed moment by moment by moment. Look at my lunch, how that has changed from the time I put it in my bowl, consumed it, and we know where it will be tomorrow. This is a phenomenon of constant change, and also helps us get familiar with it so that we have big events in our lives. Our capacity to hold it in a bigger space is increased. And of course, the more we recognize and understand this nature of impermanence, the more it feeds our understanding of the interdependence of things, the more actually it deepens our wisdom as well. So there's time for questions on this one. I want to see how people feel about it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have any questions just yet.
Okay.
So just a quick reminder, everyone. If you do have questions, type them in.
Let me go back to Bob Dylan for a minute. This is the last verse. The line it is drawn, the curse it is cast. The slowest now will later be fast, as the present now will later be past. The order is rapidly fading, and the first one now will later be last, because the times they are a-changing. And that's true. It's really true. The first one now will later be last. We cannot hold on to that position. We cannot hold on to any one of these things. And we cannot predict what the outcome of anything will be based on our fixation on permanence. Okay, then I want to talk about transition a little bit, because that's the theme for the month. That's where we got the times are changing, right? Yeah. So there's a gap. You know, we can see it when we're breathing in a breath. We take an in-breath, and then there's the gap before we naturally exhale. And then there's a little gap, and then we naturally inhale. So that transition time is both important, but it's also changing moment by moment by moment by moment by moment. So again, these times of transition, I even notice it when I'm going to bed at night. There's a little bit of, I have always had a little bit of resistance of wanting to shift out of waking mode to rest mode. And I puzzled over this for a long period of time. But there's, you know, it's something like this moment between, because it's an unknown space. This idea of transition. I think I know what I have now, and I think I know what was coming next, and the space in between is an unknown. But this meditation on the momentariness of change, of momentariness of phenomena, actually wipes out that's a wrong perception. It's not like there really is a space in between. It's one going from one to another, to another, to another, to another. And none of it is predictable. Yeah, like that.
I do have a couple of questions here.
Okay.
First one is from Sandy. Sandy says, change tends to evoke feelings of fear more than not. How will things get worse? What can I learn from the always present negative voice?
From that always present negative voice? I think check and see if it's true. That's really the kind of voice where you can say, now, is this really true? Meditating on the changes in my life, from my own experience, has the result of change always been frightful? I think we can see not. In fact, if we think about it, has the result of change mostly been frightful? I would guess probably not. So the fear is that we don't have control, I think. I mean, that's a part of it. And so that's why meditating in this way, on these different ways that things change, I think gets us more familiar and more comfortable with the idea that things change and it's okay. I can't hear you now.
I muted myself because my dog was making noise in the background.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay, this one is from Sue. Sue says, I was thinking about the body's intake and waste removal processes, digestion, respiration, skin regeneration. Interesting that we feel ashamed of our sheddings, but not of our out-breath, even though it is expelling CO2. Is not our excrement the same, or dead skin cells?
Wow, that's beautiful. Totally true. Totally true. Simply a part of the phenomena of the physical change of the body. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. It looks like that's it for questions and comments.
Okay, and we're out of time too, I think.
And we're out of time. So
Good.
thank you
Well,
so much.
let's just rejoice at being together and rejoice at having not just the opportunity to share in community in this way, which is extraordinary, but also one of the things I'm really appreciating is that we have this spiritual longing. And somehow we have received the conditioning that lets us express it or explore it. When so many people around us have the same potential, but somehow in this situation right now cannot touch into that. So we can rejoice and really set the aspiration to share the goodness that comes from that with everyone, regardless who they are. And may our practice be of benefit to all beings. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for being here. Join us again tomorrow. That's Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when Pema Chödrön Rinpoche will be here. Bye for now.